Very good evening, friends. So I hope you're all doing safe as well as healthy. Well, in the previous video, I had given you the insight in terms of Index 10 events after the reporting period. And I had created a three-step model, which I, call it as my three-step model. So I call it as my KB's three-step model because I've developed this something, which is unique in terms of identifying whether an event is adjusting or non-adjusting in nature. I think in the first instance, let's revise in terms of what is the three-step model. Then in today's video, I'm planning to take up a case study with you. Well, at the first instance, when you look at a particular case study, you should always first of all look at the fact that what is the event. Just identify that event and keep it with you. Then you go to the three-step model, and in terms of step number one, you should first of all identify whether the event took place between the cutoff dates. Now, what is that cutoff dates? The cutoff dates is supposed to be the balance sheet date and the date when the financial statements are approved. So we need to see that the event takes place between the cutoff date. If we say a yes, then we go to the step number two and we identify that is there a condition which is present on the balance sheet date. The condition needs to be existent on the balance sheet date, though the knowledge of that condition on the part of the company is not relevant. And then finally, we go to the step number three, in which we look at did we get an evidence post the balance sheet date. Basically, the evidence should arise, you can say, in the cutoff dates. So if all the three questions are in the affirmative, then we say it is an adjusting event. Now, if you say that the event took place in the cutoff dates, but there is a condition on the balance sheet date, but we did not get an evidence, or there is no condition on the balance sheet date, then it becomes a non-adjusting event. Let's, I think, apply this particular aspect to a particular case study with you. Let's have a look at a case study and apply this model. समय और तारीख नोट कर लीजिए, क्योंकि इस दिन आपको मौका मिलेगा खूब सारे इनाम जीतने का। डेट आपको मैं बता दूं 8 मई और समय 12 बजे दोपहर को। सीए इंटरमीडिएट का एक मेगा कमबैक कंपटीशन होने जा रहा है और अनअकैडमी पर आप इस कंपटीशन को बिल्कुल फ्री के अंदर आप इसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं। करना कुछ नहीं है, अगर आप प्लेटफॉर्म के अंदर नए हैं तो आप अनअकैडमी ऐप डाउनलोड कीजिए और इसके अंदर आप इस टेस्ट को अनलॉक कीजिए, मेरा कोड इस्तेमाल कीजिए CAKB10 और आप इस लाइव टेस्ट में पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं। सर, इसके एडवांटेजेस क्या हैं, क्यों हम इस लाइव टेस्ट के अंदर पार्टिसिपेट करें? भाई, सबसे पहले तो आपको ये बता दें कि इस लाइव टेस्ट के अंदर आपको MCQ बेसिस पर क्वेश्चंस पूछे जाएंगे। 60 मिनट्स का समय और 40 क्वेश्चंस आपको पूछे जाएंगे जो आपके सीए इंटरमीडिएट के लेटेस्ट सिलेबस पर बेस्ड है। इसके अंदर जो टॉप 150 रैंकर्स होंगे उनको 90% स्कॉलरशिप मिलेगी और जो टॉप रैंकर्स होंगे उन्हें भी स्कॉलरशिप मिलेगी, क्योंकि स्कॉलरशिप का पूल है 1 करोड़। और जो लकी पार्टिसिपेंट्स होंगे उनको एप्पल आईपैड और बहुत सारे एक्साइटिंग इनाम इसके अंदर मिल सकते हैं। और पेपर कंप्लीट सीए इंस्टीट्यूट का जो इंटरमीडिएट का जो एग्जामिनेशन पैटर्न है उस पर बनाया गया है। डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में आपको इसका एक लिंक मिलेगा, आप इसके लिए रजिस्टर करें और याद रखिएगा 8 तारीख को 12 बजे रेडी रहिएगा इस टेस्ट को लाइव करने के लिए। सो किस बात का इंतजार कर रहे हैं? फटाफट रजिस्टर कीजिए एंड लेट्स क्रैक इट। लुक एट दिस एग्जाम्पल and then we'll try to apply the three-step model which we created in this case. Company has got 100 finished cars on 31st March X2, which is having a cost of 4 lakh rupees each. That means it seems it's an inventory of the company and they've got a total of 100 cars and the cost of each car is 4 lakh. On 30th April, new guidelines of pollution control are implemented. And in the bracket it says which are already expected to come. And as per the new government rules, the cars which do not satisfy the conditions of using new engines which emit less carbon dioxide are totally banned from sale. Therefore, the demand for such cars drops drastically and the selling price came down to 3 lakh. The accounts of the company for the year ended X1, X2 is not yet approved. Should the company value the stock at 4 lakh rupees each or should it value at 3 lakh rupees each? Now, as I said, what you need to do, you should first of all apply a three-step model before we decide its adjusting or non-adjusting event in nature. But before we apply the three-step model, let us first of all look at the fact that what is the event in this particular example. Well, I would say the event is supposed to be the fall in price which has taken place after the balance sheet date. We very clearly given that the new guidelines were issued and the prices of the existing model started to decline. So we can say the event is the fall in the price of the cars. Now, having identified the event, let's go step by step. Did this event take place between the correct dates? That means the balance sheet date and the date when the financial statements were approved. Well, the answer is yes, the event certainly took place between the correct dates. Then I go to the step number 2, that is there a condition which is present on the balance sheet date? Now, what is a condition which is present on a balance sheet date? The condition is, which triggers the event. Now, why did the fall in the price take place? What is the reason of the fall in the price? The reason in terms of the fall in price is that there has been some new guidelines of pollution control which were expected to come. Now, a question would come to your mind that if this was not given in the brackets, that these guidelines are expected to come, would I presume that the condition was present on the balance sheet date? Yes. Guidelines don't come out of the blue. Whenever the government would come out with certain new guidelines, there will always be some kind of discussion, some kind of indication that the government is coming out with those kind of guidelines. So, are we supposed to assume that in these kind of changes, when these kind of changes are coming, we should always presume that they didn't come suddenly? Yes. The logical mind would say, yes, there will always be something which is coming. Like for example, if a company is introducing an advanced version of a product, like for example, a company like Apple, for example, is coming out with a new iPhone, a new version of iPhone, they would definitely make that, tell the customers in advance. So before the actual launch takes place, they would always, inform the customers about the launch. And that also implies that the fall of the previous versions would definitely go down. So considering that these guidelines were implemented post balance sheet date, we can always say that yes, they were always expected to come. So the condition was present on the balance sheet date. The step number 2 is met. And then we go to the step number 3 and see that did we get an evidence in the correct dates? And remember the most important aspect, the event which you identify is always the evidence. When you say that the event is the fall in price, that fall in price itself is the evidence as well. So I think if you look at the 3 steps, we can say the event took place in the correct dates, yes. The condition is there on the balance sheet date, yes. The evidence is available post balance sheet date, yes. Certainly an adjusting event, which means what is the accounting implications? The accounting implications in this case is that we're going to make adjustments to the value of the inventory. The inventory is going to be taken at 3 lakh rupees. We're going to apply the principles of Ind AS 2 and the principles of Ind AS 10, and the inventory will be written down to 3 lakh rupees. So instead of taking inventory at 4 lakhs into 100, it will be taken at 3 lakhs into 100, a write-off of 1 lakh rupees into a total of 100 cars. That is how we apply the 3-step model. I call it in my own terms as KB's 3-step model. I hope you enjoyed the application of this 3-step model. Do send me your comments on the chat box and do share and like if you like this. Thank you for watching. Bye bye and take care.